Okay, so you're scrolling through Instagram, right? And you're looking for someone specific,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can't find them.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's going on?
Yeah, they've disappeared.
Yeah, they've totally vanished.
And the thing is, Instagram doesn't make it easy to figure out what happened.
Right, like they don't just tell you you've been blocked or anything.
Nope, they don't.
So that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah, how to figure out if you've been blocked on Instagram.
We'll be looking at an episode of the SocialWick Podcast from February 4th, 2025.
Right.
It's going to be our own little investigation.
Yeah, we're going to be like Instagram detectives.
I like that. So what's the first thing you do if you think you might have been blocked?
Well, I think the most obvious thing is to go to the search bar
Right.
and search for their username.
Makes sense. But what if they don't show up?
Well, then it could be one of two things.
Okay.
Either they've blocked you or they've deleted their account entirely.
Oh, that's tricky. How can you tell which one it is?
Well, think of it like a puzzle. You need to look for more clues.
Okay, I like that.
So one thing you could try is searching for them from a different account.
Oh, so like ask a friend to look them up.
Exactly. Or if you have a second account, you could use that.
Oh, that's clever. Because if they show up for your friend but not for you,
Uh-huh.
then you know something's definitely up.
Yeah, that's a pretty good indicator that you've been blocked.
Okay, so we've got the search bar test, but what else can we look at?
Well, let's dive into something a little more personal.
Okay.
Direct messages or DMs.
Ooh, everyone loves a little DM drama.
Right. So find an old conversation with this person.
Okay,
It can be about anything. It doesn't really matter.
gotcha.
Just click on their username from within that message thread.
Okay, I'm looking at it now.
So what do you see?
Well, their profile picture is gone,
Uh-huh.
and it just says Instagram user now.
Okay, that's a possible sign of a block,
Uh-huh.
but it could also mean they deactivated their account.
So how do we know for sure?
Send them a message. It can be anything like, hey, how's it going? Or maybe
Yeah.
something.
Right.
If the message goes through,
Uh-huh.
then you're good. They haven't blocked you.
Okay. But if it doesn't,
Then, yeah, that's a pretty clear sign you've been blocked.
so we've got 2 methods down, 2 more to go.
That's right. We'll get into those after the break.
Can't wait to hear what other detective tricks you have up your sleeve.
We'll be right back.
So we've talked about a couple of ways to see if you've been blocked, but
Yeah.
now I'm kind of curious about the why, like, why would someone block you in the first place?
Oh, yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, like, it's one thing to know that you've been blocked, but it's another thing entirely to know why.
It's natural to want to understand, what's
Yeah.
going on.
Totally. And I think it's easy to get caught up in your own head about it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, did I do something wrong or
Yeah,
what happened?
it's like social media just amplifies all those insecurities.
Yeah, like suddenly this little block feels like a huge deal.
Right, exactly.
So I guess what I'm asking is why do people block each other on Instagram?
Well, I think one of the most common reasons is boundaries.
Boundaries. Okay.
Yeah, like think about it. In real life, we have all sorts of boundaries.
Right.
Like we choose who we spend time with, who we share things with,
Yeah,
and who we let into our close circle.
that makes sense. But how does that translate to online?
Well, it's like creating digital boundaries.
Okay.
Blocking is one way to do that.
So it's like saying, I don't want this person in my digital space.
Exactly.
So it's not always about like anger or anything.
No, not necessarily. Like, it can be about just curating your own experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you're in control of what you see.
Exactly. It's like choosing what books you read or what music you listen to.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, it's about creating an environment that you enjoy.
And everyone has different tastes, right?
Of course, what one person finds funny, another person might find offensive.
Right. So how do we navigate all of that without like accidentally offending someone?
I think it comes down to self-awareness and empathy.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, self-awareness means thinking about how your actions might affect others.
Right. Like being respectful of other people's perspectives.
Exactly. And empathy is about trying to understand where other people are coming from.
Even if you don't agree with them?
Yeah, exactly.
So even if someone blocks you, it doesn't necessarily mean they hate you.
Right. It just means they're setting a boundary for themselves.
Okay, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. It's not always personal.
But what about the other side of the coin? What if you're the one thinking about blocking someone?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, like when is it okay to block someone?
Well, I think blocking should always be a last resort.
Okay.
If someone is genuinely harming you or others.
Like if they're harassing you or bullying you?
Yeah, exactly. Or spreading misinformation.
Okay, so it's not about like silencing people you disagree with.
No, not at all. A healthy debate is important.
Right.
But if someone is being toxic, then blocking might be necessary.
So what if it's not that serious? Like what if you're just not vibing with someone's content anymore?
Well, and there are other options before blocking.
Like what?
You could mute them so you don't see their posts anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a way to quietly step back.
Without making a big deal out of it.
Exactly.
Or you could hide their comments if you don't like what they're saying.
Right. You have a lot of control over your own experience.
I'm realizing that Instagram etiquette is kind of complicated.
It is. It's like a whole other world with its own rules.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important thing is to use social media thoughtfully and ethically.
Yeah, be kind, be respectful.
Exactly. And remember, you have the power to create the experience you want.
This has been really insightful, but I have one more question.
Okay, shoot.
What if you really, really want to know why someone blocked you?
The age-old question.
Yeah. Is there any way to find out?
Honestly, there's no easy answer.
So are we back to playing detective?
Well, sort of. But this time, it's about real-life connections.
Okay.
Like if you have mutual friends, you could ask them if they know anything.
But like casually, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be all like, why did they block me?
Right. Just express concern.
Exactly. See if there's a misunderstanding.
Or you could maybe reach out to them on a different platform.
Yeah, like a text or email, but keep it short and sweet.
And don't be accusatory.
Right. The goal is to understand, not to demand an explanation.
And if they don't respond,
But that's okay. You tried your best.
and you can move on.
Exactly.
So it's really a personal decision whether or not to reach out.
It is. There's no right or wrong answer.
This has been super helpful, but now I'm kind of curious about the emotional side of all of this. Like, how do you deal with the feeling of being blocked?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. We'll get into that right after this.
This has been a really interesting conversation about blocking on Instagram.
It has, hasn't it?
Yeah. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's like a whole world unto itself.
It really is. But there's one thing I keep thinking about.
What's that?
Like, how do you deal with the emotional side of being blocked?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, because even if you know it's for the best or whatever,
Right.
it can still feel kind of crummy.
It can definitely hurt.
Like it feels like rejection.
It does. And I think it's important to acknowledge those feelings.
Yeah, like don't try to pretend you're not upset.
Exactly. Let yourself feel those emotions.
But then how do you move past it?
Well, I think it helps to remember that social media isn't real life.
Right. It's just a curated version of reality.
Exactly. It's like everyone's highlight reel.
So just because someone blocks you doesn't mean they hate you.
Right. Doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything.
It just means they're setting a boundary for themselves.
Exactly. And that's okay.
So how can we reframe this whole thing in a more positive light?
Well, instead of focusing on the why.
Which we may never know.
Right. Exactly.
We can focus on ourselves.
Yeah. Like, what can we learn from this experience?
Oh, I like that.
It's an opportunity for growth.
So it's like a digital decluttering exercise.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, like maybe this is a chance to look at our own online presence.
Exactly. What kind of energy are we putting out there?
And are we attracting the right kind of connections?
It's all about creating an online experience that feels good for you.
I love that perspective. It's so empowering.
It is. You have the power to shape your own digital world.
And sometimes that means letting go of things that no longer serve you.
Right. It's like pruning a garden.
You get rid of the weeds to make space for the beautiful flowers.
Exactly. And the same goes for our online lives.
So if someone blocks you, don't take it personally.
Yeah. See it as a chance to create something even better.
Focus on the connections that bring you joy.
And remember, social media is just one small part of life.
It's not everything.
Exactly. So don't let it define you.
Well said. This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has. I'm glad we could dive into this together.
Me too. I think our listeners will get a lot out of it.
I hope so. And remember, if you're ever feeling lost or confused about social media, just take a step back and breathe.
You got this.
You do.
That's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for joining us.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.